How's it going, y'all? Aiden Anderson here with Moscow Report. It's election season here in Moscow once again, and that means it's time for another round of Candidate Candids. In this series, we talk to candidates running in the local elections to learn more about them, their platform, and what they hope to do in office if elected. We're focusing on the city-level races this year, and in this video, we've got incumbent city council member Gina Taruscio. Let's get into it. Gina, how are you doing this evening?
I am great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, you're going to have to remind me, how many years now have you been involved with the city?
Aiden, I was appointed in 2016, and then I ran in 2017. So that was my first term. I was elected to a second, and this will end up being my third.
Oh, man. Okay.
10 budgets.
10 budgets. Okay. I feel like I should have brought you some balloons or something, but
I think you should have too, actually.
Well, just to start off with that, you've had, well, basically a decade of a career with the city.
Sounds long.
What do you have to look back on? Any key takeaways, any experiences that stand out?
Well, a pandemic.
Fair enough, yes.
A scary mask mandate, a homicide. A changeover of city administration, and then 4 grandbabies.
Oh man, congratulations.
So it's been a lot. I think that my experience has really honed my view of what it really takes to be a councilor. And I think I've carried this vision for the 25,000 of us for these 10 years. It's a little harder to keep in perspective all the time, but that's the way that I've tried to do my thing the whole time. All 10 years I've been here, keeping in mind that this is a position that serves all of Moscow. So I just keep thinking, okay, 25,000 of my friends need me to make this right decision.
That's a scary position to put yourself.
Pressure.
For all of the new incoming candidates this race, no pressure whatsoever.
It is pressure. I continue though, I will tell you, even when I fill out my forms and I take them to the county to start with, I'm still kind of giddy. I'm still kind of just, I'm getting goosebumps saying it. I get goosebumps thinking about being honored enough to get elected. I really, really, really think it's a great thing. Council is government closest to the people, and that's where we're most effective. And I really believe in the whole thing. Obviously, 10 years of my life. So.
Oh yeah. So this might surprise you, but I actually didn't know that you were appointed initially.
Oh yeah.
I think when I first came to town, you were already in council doing your thing. And so, what was that appointment process like?
So I was working at the chamber. I was the director before Samantha, who's there now, who's doing a great job, by the way. Dan Carscallon had stepped down, and they needed someone to step up and be interested. And the mayor was taking applications per se. It was, people had to talk to the mayor, who was Bill Lambert at the time. And I said to him, I said, I think I had been sitting in, there we go. I'd been sitting in council meetings for the last 4 years at least. Maybe it was about 4 years, trying to report back what happened at the council meetings to the chamber businesses. That was one of my big platforms. And so I had been there and been through the works and how things get decided, and I had seen how council functions. And so when Dan Carscallon stepped down, I said, wow, I think I might be interested. Talked to my husband, because I don't do these things in a vacuum. And he was like, well, okay. Okay, that'll be fun. And I spoke to Bill, and Bill was like, well, I think you'd be really good, but I'm going to continue taking applicants. It wasn't that formal. He was talking to people he thought would be good in the position. I was one of those. There were 6. And he said, I'm going to do it till Friday, and I'll let you know. So I felt like I was in a campaign. I didn't talk to him any more than that, but I think he saw something obviously I needed to do. So he put me forward as an appointee in 2016.
And here you are.
And here I am. And here I am.
You may have somewhat answered this already, but one thing that comes to mind is having that appointment at that time, going into council thinking, okay, this is something that I might need / want to do. I might be called to in some respects.
I would say that.
Are there ways in which your vision for the city or your vision of how to conduct yourself within the council have shifted from going from that first, oh man, I think I need to do this, to now when you're, I think, one of the most experienced people on the council now?
I am. Aiden, I don't like to make it seem like I was an idiot back in 2016 when I was appointed, but it's been just an extreme maturation process from, and I always have listened to constituents, and they don't have to be mine, they can be anybody else's as well, but people who have an opinion need to be heard, and especially if they're in our community, and again, government closest to the people, right? And so that being kind of my foundation, I've always made it a point to listen and to see what there is I can do. About 2 months ago, one of my good buddies in town had a bush that needed to be trimmed on one of the sidewalks. So I went to the city because I knew what I could do with that. In the beginning, I was taking all kinds of crazy, let's get all the streets paved and we'll use this big, okay, well, between learning what the city does and doesn't do, learning what council does and doesn't do, and what financial constraints we work within, that whole thing has really grown in this amount of time. I think I'm a far more deliberate decision maker now. It's not so much a gut reaction as it is and I don't know that I ever really knee-jerked reactions, but I take more time to make decisions than I used to. And I don't think my rationale is any different. I just think I can come to a decision and then let it sit for a little bit, and then it's still the right decision in the end. So I'm learning to trust that process that I go through. I think I am the most experienced, or I can't say oldest because I am. I'm probably the oldest on the council too, but it is a matter of being in the seat long enough to kind of know, like this was the first year, and I mean this clearly, that budget through and through, I knew why and where and what. And I didn't have the opportunity to attend the workshop, but I knew that budget because I'd gone through 10 of them. So it's kind of just understanding the ebb and flow of the city and the way things are.
And that can only come by being heavily involved one way or the other in the process.
And having asked all the questions, I think probably for the first, well, at least the year I was appointed, and then when I ran, I may have asked 10 or 12 million questions of Gary Riedner and of poor Bill Belknap and Tyler Palmer, just because I didn't know all of it. I still don't. I ask probably 100 questions nowadays, but back then it was a lot. It was a lot.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. I think there are plenty of people who go to city council because they're interested in what you do, what is going on, or whether they have a score to settle or whatnot.
That's
but
fair.
Oftentimes it can be a very daunting process for somebody who goes in and has never experienced it before because, I mean, like for example, the task order that went out relative to the water project a couple months ago. That was something where, as somebody who's been attending meetings for a little bit, it took me a minute to kind of, okay, what's going on here? Let's process. And if you're brand new to that, how do you go about, because I assume you get a fair number of interactions with people who aren't as familiar with the city. What does it look like to explain to them what the role of a city councilor is and or maybe what the role of the city is when it comes to some of the issues that they face?
So the city, at the very basic level, fire, water, police, streets. That's what we do, right? And so, and garbage. So at the very basic level, that's what we do. So if somebody is asking me about streets, like the bush needing to be trimmed, oftentimes, because I've been there long enough and because I've asked these questions myself, I know that, the Parks and Rec people are the ones that deal with some of the shrubbery. And that's what it was. It was a bush that was over the sidewalk. I knew who to call. And so what I will say at that point is let me send an email or let me make a call and see what I can do. I'm not making any promises because I don't want to tell you, I can take care of that pothole in front of your house. If there's absolutely no way I'm going to do it. Well, that's a lie in my book, and I don't do that.
Right. You don't want to make promises you can't keep.
Exactly. And so I think if they ask me what the role of a counselor is, it is to be the conduit between the citizenry and their government. And so if there is an issue, the quickest and the best way to get it in there, go through the council. Because we meet every other week, and there's a lot of committees going on, and we have the connections in with the city staff. That's the best way, at least I can boil it down. Am I going to make decisions about streets and things like that? No, but I'm going to make decisions about the budget for the streets. And so if there is a chance that we can fix that pothole in front of your house, I'm going to make sure that Tyler knows there was a citizen complaint. I try not to give names because that just puts a crosshairs.
And it's a small town, so people bicker.
Well, and honestly, they can look at your house and figure out who lives there anyway. So,
Fair, yeah.
But I just think it's important to be that conduit. And so I have made myself very available. Everybody's, again, that council email is a beautiful thing. I feel like most everybody in Moscow has my cell phone by now. And I'm not complaining about that because if I can't answer it at 9 o'clock because I'm tired, then I try to do it the next day. And everybody knows that. So I don't know if that answered entirely your question.
No, absolutely, because I assume for a lot of things, it's very much dependent on the issue. And it sounds like what you're saying to me is, well, if a citizen comes to me with something and they're not sure where to go, well, my job is, maybe I can't solve it for them directly, but I can point them in the right direction. So if I can give them the next step, that's a very good job.
And we have an eminently capable staff. It's a bare bones skeleton staff of people who do what we need to do in the city, but they don't have any different attitude than I do about being available to the community. So, if I can get David Schott out there and talk about trees, or if I can get Tyler to look at a pothole, or actually David Schott was the bush guy that took care of that bush for me. So, it's just it's knowing who the resources are and how to get things solved.
I will say, if anyone has spent any time in city council at all, they know at the very least one thing, and that's that Gina Taruscio loves the tree commission.
I totally do.
So, unpack, how did that start? Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, all right, just a sec. So, something you may not know about me, I have an undergraduate degree in landscape architecture.
Okay.
From the University of Oklahoma. And so I think it's from like when I was maybe born that I started to care about green things, right? I just love, and my dad, I remember my first plant he brought home for me.
Oh,
I don't still have it, but she was with me a long time. So for me, since I'm not a practicing landscape architect, this is the next best thing. I fill my house with plants. My dogs know they don't mess with the plants. My husband knows he doesn't mess with the plants. But the tree commission is a way that I can mix that city council decision-making, policy setting kind of a thing that I need to do for left or right side of my brain, whichever is the logical.
I think it's the left one,
the left side.
But go on.
And the trees and the landscaping and the artistry that's included in there is that other side.
Okay, and it's a little bit of a Venn diagram where they meet and sync up. And man.
And I know that sounds weird, but it really is. And those people are some fabulous people in that commission, and they're volunteers. And we're a tree city, and we're a bee community, and we have the beautiful, like the Heritage Tree program. Do you know about that?
Yes,
that is so awesome. And these trees are like trees with presence. You don't walk by them without going, oh.
Oh, that's, you don't just say, that's a tree. You say, oh, that's a tree.
That's a tree. And you do have to stop and look at it. Maybe talk to it. I do.
Okay.
I'm just going to admit that.
It'd be an interesting thing to see on.
We will go together. There's a sequoia, a giant sequoia on campus that I visit regularly. And we don't have a whole lot of conversation, but I enjoy walking through the Arboretum to get there. So.
Yeah. And it's lovely having a university with that kind of Arboretum in a place that,
Completely.
in between the cities, there's some really beautiful landscapes on the Palouse, but there's not the same degree of diversity that you can experience like what the university has intentionally planted. And I suppose we have something of people like you, people like the Tree Commission to thank for that.
Yeah.
So.
And the university's Arboretum and their arborist, Paul Warnick, Dick Nascalai before that. So, it's a legacy of many, many good leaders. So, and maybe this is an interesting way to phrase this question. We've talked about where you've been so far. Yeah.
Where are you headed when it comes to your vision for Moscow? Things that you've worked on, you have a little sense of what's coming up because you've been working on things for this coming year with the budget and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And obviously here you are running again, so you have a stake in that to some degree.
Indeed.
So what are some things that you're thinking about going into this next year, these next 4 years, assuming you get elected?
Yeah. If I am lucky enough to be reelected, there are some things that I want to see move forward. I'm not at all egotistical enough to think that I'll be around or still in any kind of decision-making process. To see a lot of these through to fruition, but I also believe that it's the interim steps that get you to the end of the journey a lot as well.
Right.
Water is a biggie, and I don't know in the end if it will be that collaboration with PBAC. I do think it is a regional collaboration. I don't think we're going to be able to deal with our regional water issues without that collaboration of the two cities and the counties and the universities, because we're the biggest users. And the aquifer situation needs to be dealt with. I want to continue to see development in Moscow in a smart way. And I think what's happening is good. I really do. And I love to see infill. Just makes me so happy. It really does. And I don't ever want to see farmland go away at the expense of, tract homes. But I do believe that there's enough space that we could put some housing in here. I love that there's the possibility of that housing out on Warbonnet.
Oh, yeah.
I just think that's beautiful. And all of the amenities right there are so key. And I think we've been deliberate about not, and again, we aren't getting run down with developers wanting to come and build in Moscow. We've been deliberate and careful about placement therein, and some of the like agreements to fix Palouse River Drive in conjunction with the developer, things like that. They're just making things better for the community and for the developer. So I like that kind of concept. I think we're going to have to deal with the downtown streetscape soon, and for me that's a little bit of the icing on the cake of the city, right? In that, although downtown is our central business core, the sidewalks down there are dangerous. There's pits and divots. I'm going to say pivots and dits, or dips and pivots. I'm not even still saying it right. But it's tough to walk there.
Yeah.
And if you are at all differently abled, could be almost a barrier to entry. And that's not fair, because downtown is awesome. And I think we need to deal with it. At the bare minimum, the sidewalks. We need better lighting down there too.
To say nothing of, I know that there's been something of an influx with the students coming back into town and the new scooters. There's all sorts of alternative transportation going all over the place. And when you're down there on, say, like a farmer's market day, it's sometimes not that bad because the entire street is shut down.
Yeah.
But I know there are questions that come to mind as to, okay, what are we going to do long term with this area? Are people supposed to not use this space one way or the other? And, how do you go about fixing a project like that when the area is continuously so popular?
Do you remember how much the cost was going to be for the downtown project?
Oh goodness, it was something upwards of 25 million.
It's crazy. Sorry, I just touched that. Yeah, 24, $25 million. We had no idea it was going to come in that high. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot of really important infrastructure. And some of the placement I thought was kind of cool, not necessarily having the musician part of Friendship Square be on that side of the street versus the east side. I mean, there's just some cool design things. But, far more important power for anybody downtown, really. Mm-hmm. But for the farmers market, they're, daisy chaining things together, trying to have
100%.
power right
And
now.
that's only going to work for so long, I imagine.
Yeah. And I do think we need to be a little bit more cognizant of some of the handicapped accessibility downtown right now is kind of limited. Mm-hmm. We have the bare minimum of parking spaces needed, but to me that should be something we don't have to question how many we have. We should be able to have ample parking.
Because the idea would be you're not ultimately limited by a specific number, but you're actually able to be comfortable in what you have so you can do more instead of questioning, okay, do we have what we need? The bare minimum every single time something shifts or changes or whatnot.
I'd like to see 10 or 12 or, double what we need so that people that are visiting can comfortably get to see how great we are.
And we do get a decent influx of visitors every year, whether it's events with the university or otherwise. There's always something that's going to be happening, and it's likely going to be happening downtown.
I was part of a rapid market assessment. You're exactly right. And we had clickers, and we were trying to keep track of who came in and out.
Oh, man.
It was a weekend of like 10,000 people. I honestly was sore at the end of the clicking experience because it was and it was fun because everybody wanted to know why we were clicking and we had to get a couple little demographic stuff from them. It was wonderful. Mm-hmm. So
speaking briefly you've mentioned a couple different issues here, and I think there's very few people that I've run into who will just flat out disagree that one of those isn't an issue. They'll just say, nope, water's not an issue.
Yeah.
But one thing that I think might be interesting to hear from you, from someone who's been on council so long, what are maybe some of the hidden pressures the city is facing, things that aren't apparent on the surface when it comes to something like the water issue that makes it more of a priority in the city's mind?
Like if I walk into Moscow today, what are the issues that I won't see?
Mm-hmm. Right.
We have a very deep division right now in our community. And I think it starts on a fundamental religious line, and I almost can't even say it because it's so distasteful to me. I think it's also branching out into less what church you go to, but is your opinion different than mine? And are you on an R or a D side, or do you? It's just so divided right now that it's hard to find some commonality. And do I have an answer for that? No. I think I've fought hard in my time to make certain that there isn't decision making that I feel is in any way discriminatory, one way or the other. And I don't know that that I've always been the most popular person as a result of that. I believe that and I don't know if it's a series of, I don't know what it is. It's not town halls. I tried that for a while where we had just a group that would get together and try to talk through things and try to sort things out. And it's a bigger issue than one group of 10 people can try to solve.
Well, and it seems like it would be a bigger issue than Moscow too, if the national conversation presently isn't anything to go on. So I think, I think
fair.
one thing that small town has the benefit of, or Moscow specifically has the benefit of when it comes to those sorts of conversations is it is the sort of town where, I could go across the street and interact with somebody with a very different point of view than me.
Exactly.
And what it takes is less the logistical impossibilities of that happening and more the willingness of the people on both sides to figure out what that looks like.
The tolerance. You're right.
And of
You're
course,
right.
there is a difficulty, which is, what's the old phrase? A good compromise makes everybody mad a little bit.
Wasn't that what Lambert used to say?
Maybe it was, but
If you both walk away with you don't get anything you want or don't get everything you want, then you both win, or some concept like that. A good compromise.
which good luck trying to sell that to people these days. But
That's fair.
I think one thing I've run into when it comes to city politics, what I've encouraged people who are either brand new or interested is oftentimes they are coming into it from a somewhat of a national or higher level perspective. So they're taking the categories that they know from following the news or following a broader national conversation or even just philosophy and implanting it into conversations at the city. And sometimes those don't quite match up. And I think it's important to remind people that, hey, with the city being the government that's closest to you, there's actually a different set of categories you might need to be working with for. So, your philosophical opinions on taxation, for example. Is it good? Is it bad? Should we have them? Should we not? Should they be higher? Should they be lower? That's all well and good. That's a conversation to be had. But there's only so much that the city can do when it comes to some of those conversations.
And you're exactly right. We are very, very limited. And a lot of our decision making in council, believe it or not, is highly regulated by the state. Mm-hmm. And so I think that, again, going back to your question earlier about what you tell people when they come to you with an issue, you got to recognize that, this seems like this big, but in reality, your locus of control is about, it's way smaller, and your ability to affect things is way less.
Mm-hmm. And you're not disconnected from it. I think that's another thing. People,
agreed.
But people need to see those lines of connection, and that's part of why it's important to keep the conversation open, because I've run into people before, not at the city more, but at the county, who are really frustrated about XYZ issue that the county is implementing, and they can be anything from disagreeing with this person to agreeing wholeheartedly with this person, but at the end of the day, what they're doing has to do with a state level mandate that they now need to comply with. And so at one level it's like, we're happy you're coming to us and giving us your issues, but I'm sorry, we're not the people to solve this problem. But they can point them in the right direction, which, as you've already pointed, is something you practice at the very least.
I do regularly. I really hope that we can get back to the open-minded, tolerant Moscow that we were when I got here. And again, it's maybe been a maturation process for everybody through this 10 years. Or I guess I've been here since 94. So that many years. Mm-hmm. But it feels like the differences are dividing us more than they are uniting us. Mm-hmm. And we've always been kind of that quirky little North Idaho town. And I would like us to get at least back to that attitude. Mm-hmm.
So I guess one question practically on that front is I would assume that not everyone on the city council itself is coming from the same perspective, but I will say you seem to do a good job of coming around to each other's opinions when I've seen you interact. There are very few votes. I think I've run into maybe 3 tiebreaker decisions that ever needed to be made in my time watching city council meetings.
That's fair.
So what's the secret sauce there? Because clearly, or rather, it would seem that you're not all coming from the same opinions on a lot of things, but you're there making decisions with a lot of agreement, even if you need to hash it out a little bit. So,
and we do. I can say that I actually, and then maybe that's something that is matured in my tenure on the council too. I really genuinely respect the work and the opinions of these people that sit up on council with me. And so when I am trying to do this 25,000 person benefit decision, that's not a very articulate way to put that, but when I'm looking at these issues, trying to make sure that it benefits the community as a whole, these are my peers. You know, whether they've been on the council 2 years or 8 years, and I need to listen. And if what I hear coming from them comes from the right place, comes from an aspect of trying to solve the problem for the community rather than for one group or the other, or in a way to block one group or another, or to, you know, if there's an agenda, usually I'm going to not go for that input quite as much. I tend to have an opinion when I go in of my own, because I have a brain, and I've read through, and you know, I go in trying to be prepared, knowing that we're going to discuss it, and that's where it should be discussed, because that's the open meeting. That's where, you know, you can sit in there and listen to what we're doing, and at that moment, given all of the feedback, it's almost, to me, if we can't reach a consensus, at least 4 out of the 6 of us, at that point, then the discussion needs to continue.
And I suppose that's a good way to hash it out, even if it ends up being a slower process. I think people, I think part of the increased tension these days has to do with the urgency that a lot of people feel around a lot of issues. They think that, okay, this is a problem, and the problem needs to be solved very quickly. There's there's an urgency, there's a push to get it done, and yet you're in a position where you actually have to pump the brakes on a lot of things, simply because that's good decision-making practices, as opposed to,
well, and nothing happens.
We don't actually care about this issue,
Nothing happens that fast. Or at least not many of my good decisions have been made that fast. I can make lots of fast decisions that are going to be ones that haunt me. So, you know, I guess I'd rather be deliberate and careful and a good steward of the money. You know, I mean, it was some huge amount, $80,000, $90,000 million this year budget. I'm not even getting the number right. Obviously, I didn't go to the workshop. But that amount of money that the 25,000 people that elected me said, okay, you can make some decisions based on this. You can't do that in 3 seconds.
Right.
You have to be deliberate, and you have to be careful, and you have to weigh what you can.
And you have to weigh, I assume, you've already talked about this with just talking to the community and hearing from constituents. Totally. You know, you can't, you're making decisions for everyone, so no matter how many people come up to you with requests or things that they want you to do, even if you want to be responsive, there's a weight of, okay, I actually have to take these as a whole and evaluate them in the context of all the other 25,000 people that are living here. And
it matters not who you are. It matters more the fact that you are speaking to me about it. If somebody is passionate enough to take time in Rose hours in the produce section to talk to me about that pothole, that matters. That matters to me. That's something that isn't a jerk decision or a quick moment. It's a moment to go, hey, you know what? That matters to that person. Let's take a look at the bigger picture here. Are the streets really in that bad a shape? If I had unlimited dollars, if I like win the lottery and I get like $100 billion, first thing I do, streets in Moscow. Every one of them. Tyler Palmer would work day and night to get these solved.
And I do want to say, just as a work of commendation, this past summer has been a fantastic year for streets.
Totally agree.
It's been, I remember driving the first time on the freeway going south of town and just being like, oh man, this is a pleasant massage of an experience right now.
It's so nice. And you come around that one curve and all of a sudden the vista is right. Oh, I honestly did not expect to see that in my lifetime.
Really?
It has been such a topic of great debate. I And we kept hitting roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, and rightly so. People can have their opinions. But I thought, I just am not going to see it. And I drove it last weekend to see my grandbabies, and it was awesome. My youngest grandbaby turned, she's not youngest, second to the youngest, turned 5. And it was pretty exciting.
That does sound exciting.
We had tiaras.
Tiaras?
Tiaras on our heads. It was wonderful.
Okay. Well, not to change the subject too dramatically, but
go ahead. I'll bring her back up. Don't worry.
So you served on council with Mayor Betke when he was just Art Betke, Councilor Art Betke.
Totally.
What has it been like working with him as mayor? And now that he's stepping down, are there any retrospectives on stepping down? He's still got a few months left for sure.
I get it.
But,
yeah. You know, honestly, Aiden, I'm close enough to Art and his husband David that we knew who he was going to run, and it was kind of a natural extension for him. He'd been on planning and zoning a long time. He'd done the council thing, and when Mayor Lambert decided he wanted to step down, it was just in my mind, there was a no-brainer moment there. Was it interesting to not have him voice his opinion anymore? Yeah, because the mayor really is not a contributing member at those council meetings, right? So the sage councilor that used to sit next to me wasn't there quite as much anymore. So we had a lot more deliberate conversation. Maybe not at a council meeting more. Do I always agree with him as mayor now? No. Did I agree with him as councilor? No. Do I have way more respect because he has done a great, is that the right word? A great job as mayor? Yeah. That's a hard job. I have thought about it in the past, and first of all, I don't think I can keep my mouth shut well enough to be mayor. But I think there's and maybe another level of maturity, another level of statesmanship, another level of leader that I still have to mature into before I would ever think of that. It's just a really honored spot in my mind. I think he's done a good job. I think he has led us gently forward in some terrible, terrible times. You know, I guess Lambert did the pandemic, but this whole homicide thing was terrible. It was a terrible, terrible, it's still terrible. And I think he's just done a good job of supporting our staff, our poor city attorney. It's been super hard. And it isn't just the city that has dealt with this, the whole community has dealt with it. So, so yeah, I don't know that that answers your question entirely. The adjustment, it was kind of a natural thing, but I really respect what he's done, for certain.
It's a wonderful way to send him off into retirement or whatever he ends up doing next.
Who knows what he'll end up doing next?
Well, I told him, it's like, hey, do you want to do an exit interview sometime? It's like, oh, and his eyes lit up at the word exit. So I was a little bit like, oh, okay, hopefully it hasn't been that bad.
You ought to bring his husband in too and have a group thing, because it'd be funny to hear what David's attitude about the whole mayorship versus Art's.
For sure,
It would be an interesting interview.
So this has got me thinking, by the way,
Okay.
One way or the other, if you're lucky enough to get reelected,
Indeed.
or it ends up being a new person taking your place.
Yeah.
Either way, there will be a bunch of new faces on council going into this next
Completely.
year. As the senior ranking council member, if you're reelected,
Yeah.
what words of wisdom, advice would you give to these people, whether they're serving alongside you on the bench or as mayor? Because I'm guessing they're going to need it.
Yeah, wow. Mostly it's what my grandma used to say about one of these and two of these. One mouth and two ears. Listen more than you talk, plain and simple. Ask the questions of the ones you trust. You can't trust everybody, You know, you gotta, and I learned that my first year. I was still at the chamber, and it was, you know, it was this great moment of, oh, look, I'm a counselor now, and I had this whole board and all of these members in the chamber, and I got really diffuse opinions. Mm-hmm. And I struggled to try to find my own voice in the middle of all of that. So I'm thinking specifically of our mayor candidates right now. Remember who you are and where you are, and what your beliefs are deep down. Mm-hmm. And if you have to write them down and carry them around, that's important. Mm-hmm. I would also say don't talk so much. Listen a lot. It's not important that you talk at every single meeting on every single topic, but be prepared to. Mm-hmm. Stop in Rose hours when somebody wants to talk to you about potholes in the produce section.
I feel like there's a story there. Did this happen?
It did, and I didn't have makeup on, so I'm sure I was scary. I had a ball cap on, and like, well, I don't wear my plaid pajama pants, but it was almost that bad. And it was one of those, oh, wow, okay, this is that time. You have to be in tune enough to know, right? Mm-hmm. And so we had this whole conversation next to like the cantaloupes about this pothole. So, you know, you have to be responsive. You have to be out there where your community can interact with you. You now are an elected official. You are their voice. And so be there. And you have to try and make the decision, the best decision you can for the largest amount of people.
Mm-hmm. Very good advice.
Almost makes me want to cry saying that. That's a serious thing.
All right. Well, I am thinking we're coming to a bit of a close here, but I want to ask you to tell people a little bit. Obviously, you know, you have a decade track record on council, but you're still campaigning going into this year. How can people find out more about you, your campaign, and are there events that you're going to be showing up on? What sorts of things are you going to be doing over the next couple months?
Any and all of the forums. Is that the right? What's plural for forum?
You know what? Fora sounds interesting, so I'm inclined to go for it.
All of the fora that are going to be going on. Next Wednesday starts the extravaganza. There will be the League of Women Voters. There'll be the Chamber. There will be the New St. Andrews one. There will be, I remember there were 8 or 10 of them when I ran the last time. I'll be at every single one of those. I will also, and remain very available anytime somebody wants to meet. Send me an email. That is about the best way to get a hold of me. My phone I don't get to answer until 5 o'clock at night when I get out of my regular job.
Fair enough, and then you're hit with a big tidal wave of...
It can be a lot, but it's yeah. What else would I say about that? I am just right over by the junior high, so when you go to your son's football game or your grandson's football game, I'm right there. So if you want to knock on my door, you can do that. I am out there. Mm-hmm. And I'm
any website, social media, or is it mostly the email?
Excuse me. I do have a Gina Taruscio for Council Facebook page that we're reimagining right now. That'll be out there. I think there might be a Gina Taruscio for Council email, but again, that's a lot more email to try to track, and I'd rather just have one email and have everybody get me there.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, so good talking to you, Gina, and best of luck with your campaign.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
And that was my conversation with Gina Taruscio. As with all candidates, I highly encourage you to check them out yourself so that you can go into the election well prepared and educated. We'll have the relevant links posted with this video, and as always, if you have any questions, please reach out. I'm Aiden Anderson, and this has been Candidate Candids. We'll see you next time.